So we are live. Jenna McCarlie, how you doing?
Hello, how are you?
I am very good. Now we've been, going back and forth a little bit in different capacities for, I think, over a year. And my introduction to you was through our, mutual friend slash coach, Mike McGurn, which, I highly respect.
Yeah.
So maybe let's start with Coach Mike McGurn.
Yeah.
What's your relationship like with him? Take us behind the scenes into the gym at Queen's University with Mike McGurn. Is it, by the way, was your introduction to Mike through Queen's University?
Yes, it was. So, I've been with the Queens for 4 years now. So Mike was one of the first coaches and sort of people within Queens that I met before I even had my offer to study my course. I met with the hockey coach Simon Bell, who sort of reaches out to players who are interested into coming to Queens, and had a sort of chat with him and seeing where my sort of thoughts were of where I was going to go. And Mike was one of the first people I was introduced to, mainly because he's one of the people that I'd be working closely with at uni. And Mike's, his accolades speak for themselves, and he's, it's so great that I was able to meet him. And I had heard of Mike before, but I was never been able to meet him before through any other training I had done. And straight away, he was such a friendly face, but I could tell his, your resilience behind him, and he's exactly what you need in the gym.
He's intense.
He's intense, but like in the best way possible. And I've got a great relationship with him. I find him very friendly, and I can ask him anything, and I always go to him. And we do have a over the last couple of years. He's good for our whole team, our whole high performance team. Anything you need. But he doesn't just work with hockey. He works across the whole university. And not many people would have a bad word to say about him, and his experience throughout the whole strength and conditioning and working with teams, and the fact he's chosen to then stay with Queens obviously shows how much he appreciates Queens, and the facilities and everything is just there for what he needs to pursue his sort of training in. But he
has a pretty extensive resume before his days in Queens.
Yeah.
I'm a Manchester United fan, so any behind the scenes stories he's willing to tell about Manchester United are it's like music to my ears.
Oh, I'm sure.
And for those that don't know, Queen's University is in Belfast in Northern Ireland. And are you Northern Irish? Are you born in Northern Ireland?
I am. Yeah, I'm Northern Irish. Some Scottish roots, and currently my dad lives in Gibraltar, so that's about as far as it goes. But yeah, me and my family are all Northern Irish roots, and I've always lived here. Yeah.
So hence the accent for the listeners.
Yeah.
So walk me through kind of your journey in as a teenager, maybe, or where you started playing field hockey. And I know that you refer to it as hockey, right? When I first I always made the distinction from what I was exposed to, and I'm very ignorant when it comes to the world of hockey until I moved to university in America, and I was suddenly exposed to field hockey and ice hockey. I always associated hockey with ice hockey. And then when I started speaking to you, but it sounds like you refer to field hockey as hockey, period.
Yeah, so it is. So I'd be the opposite. So there is ice hockey in Northern Ireland. The Belfast Giants. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of them, but they'd be massive here. But it's quite unique because ice hockey isn't that big over here, but they have a very successful team. But that obviously people get brought in and everything, and it's a great night out to go watch the ice hockey. And obviously similar to what I play, I do love it. But so we would just call it hockey. We don't even call it field hockey versus ice hockey, because it's like a very, very big sport both in Ireland and the UK. But yeah, I probably started when I was maybe 11 or so, back in my actually maybe younger, about 9 or 10 in my primary school, before I went to grammar or high school. And it wasn't actually my main sport back in those days. I would have done a lot of like sailing. My family would be big sailors. So that was my main sport up until I was about 15. Sailing, yeah.
It sounds cold. It sounds cold sailing in your part of the world,
especially in the Irish Sea. It's very cold. But I was thrown out in a single-handed. So I would have sailed by myself in a dinghy against, you know, my sister sailed and my dad grew up sailing. So I was thrown out as a 10-year-old in the Irish Sea in 30 knots of wind, and that taught me a lot. So anyway, so that was my main sport up until I was about 15. I did still play a lot of hockey through school, up through the age groups. But it was around 15 when I started to break into the representative hockey, and I got to get some trials for the Ulster setup. So Ulster is like what we call Northern Ireland, but we play for Ulster. It's just another way, without going into it, it's like our country is Ulster.
So is that like the national program, the national team?
Yeah, so it's like a province within Ireland. So it's like the national team of Northern Ireland. So we play for Ulster against other provinces in the south of Ireland, against Leinster and Munster and Connacht. And we would play in an interprovincial tournament. And then from that, you would get trials or tryouts for the national team, which is Ireland. So that's my first break into the Ulster team was when I was 15, and then I played up through under 16 age groups, under 18 and under 21. And then there's no senior national Ulster team. It gets a bit confusing because we don't have a national team. For example, we couldn't go to the Commonwealths, but then Ireland, because it's not part of the Commonwealth, it isn't eligible to go to the Commonwealth. So Northern Ireland doesn't have a hockey team, doesn't have a world ranking, which is a bit frustrating because I could get to go to the Commonwealths under Northern Ireland, but not under Ireland. But there's not a national team for Ireland. But anyway, we'll not get into that. But
politics. We don't do politics on this one. Yeah.
No. So anyway, so I played for under 16 Ulster in my first interprovincial tournament. And it's like a weekend that everybody comes to one place and all the provinces play each other, and there's Irish coaches there, you know, to pick out people that they think should deserve a trial. And then from that, I got my first tryout for the Ireland under 16 team. So Ireland has a great underage setup where you get to go to Six Nations and Europeans at like under 16, under 18 level. Unfortunately for me, I was hit by COVID around under 18 age groups, so I actually never got an under 18 Europeans, but it's the way it was. Still got lots of other matches, and you know we played Scotland, England, Wales so many times and things. So got my first summer. So I played for Ireland under 16s in 2018. Then from that moved up the age groups really up until now. So under 18 Ireland, under 21.
So you've climbed up the ranks within the Irish system of the national team. So you're obviously like, you know, in the, you know, top percentage of pool of players for hockey, field hockey in Ireland. So walk me through like the process of what are you thinking, you know? So you're representing Ireland, but someone like a Queen's University would approach and start recruiting players from the Irish national team. It only seems organic. But from your perspective, like, what are some potential, you know, routes of development, you know, in terms of, you know, your ambition, realistic or unrealistic, but, you know, back then, at least when you're 13, 14, 15, 16, you're getting called up. What are you thinking? Like, you know, for me playing, you know, you play football, soccer, 14-year-old, you're good. You think you can make it to Manchester United, you know? So what are you thinking at the time?
So probably when I was back at 14, 15, the main aim was you want to play for Ulster, you want to play for your country. And then as soon as you got that, you wanted more. So you was like, oh, I want to play for the national team. And then as soon as I got my under 16 call up and you got up through the age groups and you formed a little community within the girls your age. And every year you just sort of moved up the age groups with them. So I suppose as soon as you first play for Ireland and you see the national team play and you're within the system, you just sort of get the feel and the bug that you just want to play for the national team, like you want to go the whole way. So I would say as soon as I started playing for Ireland, when I got my first call up, I always wanted to go the whole way, and that's still to this day, of course, that's what the aim is. And then when I was around maybe 15, 16, and I was thinking about what I wanted to study, what degree I wanted to do, I knew of girls within Northern Ireland who had played for Ireland, and they also went to Queen's University. And I could see the success then that Queen's, you know, the success of the hockey team within Queen's. So it also just helped that degree that I wanted to do in dentistry was one of the top 10 universities in the UK for dentistry. So it just all sort of came together that very quickly I realized that my goal in the next couple of years was to stay within the Ireland setup, work through the age groups, and get a place in Queen's University to study dentistry, and also get a place on the Queen's University team. So it was around maybe lower sixth, we call it, when we were about not your final year of school, the year before, when you're about 16, 17, maybe coaches might start to, have a talk about even the current players on the team. They might know younger girls, and they're like, have a feel of, if anyone coming up through the ranks of the Ulster and the Ireland teams. So that's where maybe Simon would go to first, because Queen's we're very high level within Ulster hockey, like the leagues. So he goes straight to the schoolgirls coming up already through the underage Ulster and Ireland teams. So and when you get to about upper sixth, when you're starting to put your courses in, Simon would work very closely with Simon and the rest of the team at Queen's would work very closely with girls who are sort of thinking about Queen's, giving them everything on offer, maybe working with the accommodation side of it, trying to get accommodation for the girls, just the logistics of going to university and getting that.
It's very much like the Queen's University specifically. It seems to me very much like the NCAA American system, if you will. But it's not. Is it common to other universities, even in Northern Ireland, UK in general?
Yeah. So there's only 2 universities in Northern Ireland. There's only Queen's and Ulster University, but Ulster University would do the same thing, and they would do the same recruitment process. There's just different degrees at both universities. That's why it just depends what you want to study ultimately. But both universities are very high level hockey, so it just depends really what your preference is.
And for you, is it the dentistry that steered you towards Queen's initially?
Yeah, so I actually played for Ulster University before at Queen's. So it's a bit of a tricky one, because Ulster University, even though it's a university, it is an open club. So you can play for the team even if you aren't a student there. But Queen's is a closed club. So that also sort of swayed me towards Queen's, because you can only play for that team when you're a student. And I knew girls who already played there, and you get a great experience at Ulster University too, but I sort of wanted to go see what opportunities I could get at Queen's. I knew the likes of Mike McGurn and all the other people involved. It just attracted me so much.
I've seen also the facilities at Queen's, which are remarkable, really amazing.
Yeah, and then the different scholarships on offer that I would be eligible for and everything like that. So that is what sort of swayed me. But all the universities down in the south of Ireland and the UK would have the same sort of recruitment process, and there'd be different maybe universities reaching across the water. They maybe would contact players within Ulster hockey or the Southern Ireland to try bring them across the water to England or Scotland or Wales as well. So there's a lot of communications going on within the United Kingdom and Ireland for the recruitment process, but it all happens around your last year of school and just really what you want to study ultimately. Because
So on that, so why dentistry from your perspective? When I was 16, I couldn't even probably spell dentistry. So I'm wondering how one at 16 knows they want to go through that process.
It is quite a big decision, and actually, funnily enough, today it was my last day of this year, and I was helping out at the open day for new school pupils coming in, and it reminded me of why, when I was sitting in their shoes 5 years ago, why I wanted to do it. So it was things like the open days that you go to as a student and the display that gets put on, and you think that is really what I want to do. So going right back, I have had playing sport, I have had some trauma to my own teeth, and some people would think that would be absolutely not deter you away from going if you've had a bad experience within the profession. But obviously it was a bad experience for me to go through it, but to see what the work that I got, the difference basically that the dentist made for me, I just thought was remarkable. And I love the science and side of all my studies when I was growing up, and I love working with my hands. I was big into the technology and design subjects in school, and I just knew I wanted to go down the science route. And I knew what different options there were, like medicine and dentistry and pharmacy and nursing and all those. I knew I wanted to do something down that route. And then I, for the likes, went to the different open days that were on offer at Queen's, and I always knew I wanted to study. Well, I wasn't very closed off. I was open to going across to England or something, but Queen's is a Russell Group university, so it's it's a very established and successful university in the world. So
and very prestigious historically.
Very, yeah. So I always knew that to have that half an hour away from my family home with such great facilities, the degree I wanted to do, ultimately I knew I wanted to stay at home. So that was the first decision, really, was I wanted to stay at home. And yeah, so I went to different open days, went up to the dental school open day, and just all those different factors with me being interested in the side of dentistry that I had seen of people going through trauma and making their teeth look normal again, things like that. And
Can I ask you? Can I ask you what happened? What was the? Was it on the pitch?
So it was actually it's quite funny because I've played hockey since I was very young, and always wear my gum shield because I just think it's silly people that don't, because you never know where the ball's going to go or if the stick's going to go.
Yeah.
But I was.
Is the gum shield like just a mouth guard? Or they also
mouth guard. Sorry, mouth guard. But it was actually playing in it was a girls' brigade. I don't know if you have that in the States, but it's like a, it's hard to describe. It's like a community social thing. You go when you're a child, you can do like different activities through it, and
okay, like a Girl Scouts maybe.
Something very similar to that.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. And we were playing like with plastic hockey sticks. We were playing hockey just for fun games, and it just got a stick to the mouth, really, and I broke my front teeth. So one of those things that it was playing hockey, but not normal hockey that I would play with my gum shield in. So I was in like a uniform on a Monday night. I wasn't out on the hockey pitch. So it was about when I was 11 years old, broke my front 2 teeth, and yeah, since then I've had loads of work, but they're all fine now and they look normal. So it is worth it in the end. But yeah, so seeing all that, and then knowing I loved working with my hands in the school with the technology and the design, everything like that, and then loving the science aspect. And I did some work experience is the other thing that we do in schools. You go to in lower sixth, so when you're about 16, you go for a week or 2 weeks in any profession that you want to work alongside to see if you would like it and when you're older. And I went to my dentist where I'm from, and just loved everything that was going on. So and you do sort of go into those degrees not knowing if you're really going to love it, but thankfully for me I have, and it's definitely the best thing, the best choice I could have done. And I've only got 1 year left, which is quite scary. So
amazing. And so so it's going well.
Yeah, going really well. Got my results this week, so I passed all my finals. So part 1 finals, got part 2 next year. So all happy, but that's one thing. The one downside of dentistry, which probably isn't, it's very known to people, is that the exams are very a lot and very difficult. But it's a short period of time you just dedicate yourself to, and it's always worth it in the end. All the work.
And how's it? So it's obviously a lot of work with or without the sport, but you also have the sport to keep in mind. And is it still, when you're so engrossed in studies, is it still like a priority, the sport for you, and competitive as it was even before you, dug your teeth into the studies?
Yeah, so I would say that was one of the main reasons why I did choose to leave my previous club to come play for Queen's, is because if I played for Queen's, I was eligible for the Elite Athlete Programme Scholarship, which is a scholarship within Queen's University for athletes that come in to study that are at the top of their game that they've played for their country before. And you have to go through like an application process and an interview and everything. And there's only 18 athletes across all sports in the university that get a place on it. And that's where we work with the likes of Mike and like really closely, and our physios, physios and our nutritionists and everything like that. We have psychologist meetings and everything, but also a big part of it is you get academic flexibility. So it allows you to, if you need to take, it doesn't really work as much for me because I don't have deadlines as such. I have clinical work, but it still works for if I need to have a day off to travel to a tournament or a day off to do this and that. But if you needed an extension for a week for a big assignment, the scholarship would be able to work closely with your faculty to be able to get that extension. So I just thought when I was, leaving school, I was like, if that is an offer for me, I should really take that up. And, if I ever need the academic flexibility, it's there. And thankfully I haven't needed to take it that much because just the way my hockey's worked, I've been able to balance it. You know, I haven't had to take that many days off until this year, actually, where I was in South Africa for hockey and at Christmas time. And then when I was in the States last week, I had to take a few days off. And the other thing is you have to work very closely with your school. So my School of Dentistry, you know, they are very supportive, and, you know, they love hearing about their students who do other things outside of uni, but you have to also do it the right way. You can't, you know, it's a full-time degree, and if you take clinical time out, you have to replace it somewhere else. You know, I have to graduate with so many hours, so many clinical attainments and things. So
yeah.
It's difficult with dentistry because I can't just take a week or two off. But that's where the Queen's Scholarship worked very closely with me and my school to make sure I'm able to excel in both. But yeah, going back to being able to balance them, I think I've always been used to balancing both all through school because I've played hockey from a young age, and even before my hockey, as I mentioned, my sailing. I remember, you know, when I was maybe 12 or 13, revising for my first end of year exams for when I first went to high school, on like a Friday night, getting on a ferry to go sail with books in my hand. Like, I remember, you know, I've always just studied on the go, and I think that's what's made me disciplined right up until my age now. But I just think as sports people, you just have to be disciplined within your sport, and it just transfers all those skills over onto your studies. And, you know, in a way, I feel like I'm at an advantage because I'm used to dealing with things under pressure. I'm used to, you know, I have 2 hours to get this session done because I need to go and study, or vice versa. I need to study because I need to go play hockey for this session, and I have to do both. And, you know, obviously I have many people around me to help me if I'm feeling under pressure and things like that. But if I'm honest, I think I've such good facilities to be able to do both up there. You know, I live in a house with some of my friends up near the campus, and it's a 5-minute drive away from the pitch, and, you know, everything's just accessible. And, you know, I just know how to balance my time so that I'd never burn out in either. So when it comes to exam time and I know I need to concentrate hard, I do that. And when it comes to big matches and things, that's when then my priority. So I wouldn't say I have a priority, but my priority is both. And you definitely can prioritize both. But I'm at an advantage because I've got so many great people around me supporting me. But it all just does come down to just the discipline, because if you didn't have that, you wouldn't be able to balance it.
How is your, you know, prehab routine? Have you faced any, you know, major injuries the last couple years since you've been at Queen's? And again, knock on wood, I'm not hoping that you do. Just generally your general fitness level, and what is the focus on, you know, prehab and injury prevention?
Yeah, so I think, as you say, touch wood, I haven't had any injuries that have taken me, you know, weeks, months, even a year out of my sport, which I'm very, very thankful for, because that is one thing as an athlete you do always have at the back of your mind. You know, you work towards these things, but one day it can just all go. So I feel like you just have to do everything possible to avoid it, but sometimes it's unavoidable as well. You know, freak accidents can happen, but
yeah.
It is such a priority within our team, is in the gym, you know, not even just trying to be as fit as you can. It's just about the conditioning of your muscles and conditioning of everything to try prevent those injuries and cooling down properly. And there's a big focus on nutrition and, you know, and your hydration and everything as well with us, which I'm very fortunate to have. You know, I'm in touch with my nutritionist every couple of weeks, you know, just to see how I'm getting on. And that's not just for my sports side of my nutrition, like feeling around exam time so that I'm at my prime to do my exams, like right
focus,
back.
energy,
Yeah,
everything. Yeah.
everything like that. But I've had, at the start of the season, actually, I think I came to preseason. I had a good preseason, but I think when we started playing matches, I had too many minutes too quickly or something. I think it's hard at the start of preseason. You just want to play as much hockey as possible, but you do have a couple of weeks completely off, and, you know, your body's not used to playing that much so quickly. So I had a bit of a like a stress. It wasn't a stress fracture. I can't actually remember what it was, but I had a bit of a niggle in my knee at the start of the season, and I just felt it one night at training, and at 9 a.m. the next day I was in with the physio. Like, it was just like that, and just as a precaution. And he gave me exercises, he examined me and everything, and he was just like, you know what, and we work with a physio called Jenna McCarlie. He's like one of the top guys in Northern Ireland, his team as well. We're very, very fortunate to have them working alongside us. And I was straight into him, and he gave me all these things to do. And because of that, and I reduced my minutes that weekend because of that. I didn't actually end up missing any matches, and we were just about to start the season, so it was a wee bit of a scare, but that happens. Things are going to happen, but the main thing is what is really drilled into us when we have all our meetings and as our scholarship meetings, or just like the whole morale between the team, is you never just like, oh, it'll go away. If you wake up with a niggle, oh, it's fine. Like, the importance is you say early and you treat it early, because then that obviously ultimately means that it'll not turn into something that could have been avoided. But yeah,
which is huge. And athletes, I think, probably make that mistake every time, that you kind of ignore those messages that your body's trying to send you. Sometimes it's for I guess laziness, but it's also sometimes because you want to be playing, right? You want to take part in training, you want to take part in games. So it's difficult, no? Like, owning up to a niggle.
Yeah, I know it is, but so that was really it this season, which I was very fortunate for. But that does just come down to being in the gym so much, and we have tailored programs, like tailored individual programs with Mike, that what we want to work on, and he's with us in the gym when we are training, so he can see if somebody's not doing an exercise right, or if he says that weight needs to be increased or decreased, etc. So I think it's a great. Sorry, is this laptop shaking? No, because my can you
I don't
see
think
it?
so.
I
don't think it's shaking
because my washing machine's on and I can feel the table shaking. Do you mind if I just go turn it off?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So I don't think it was shaking from my side. That's funny.
I forgot that did that. Sorry, that's it now.
That's funny. I have to keep that in. That's a funny blooper. The first
I just felt it shaking. I was like, it's only going to get worse. I need to say now before the whole thing starts shaking. But yeah, no. What I'm saying is, when we're in the gym with Mike and he's there watching us, but what is great about our team is that we all gym together as well, so we sort of push each other, and we do it as a team before training. So we go to the gym, which is at our pitch. Like, we're very fortunate. We, the gym is down. And have you been up at the facilities?
I've been at the gym. Yeah, it was like a nice window, like a window wall where you can see the pitch, right?
Pitches, yeah. So that's where we go for an hour before our sessions on a Monday and Wednesday night. And yeah, all our programs are tailored. And then whenever you come into the end of your 5-week program, Mike very like he makes another one for us. Like, we're very lucky. We don't even need to think about what exercises we need to do. Like, Mike does all that for us. So we're very fortunate, and it's great because like the attendance is great, the punctuality is great. No, because Mike will lock you out if you're a second late, not even a minute late. If you're not in that gym, he says goodbye. So, but that's great. That's what you need.
Tell me if this is true. He told me if he sees someone doing bicep curls, he kicks them out of the gym.
Oh, really? I haven't heard that one before. But actually, in saying that, I don't think he's ever given any of us that exercise. So maybe it's banned. But yeah, so no prehab, and that is such a big thing reinforced in Queen's across all sports. And within our scholarship, we have like screening at the start of the year, middle of the season, at the end, to see like how we're getting on. So we're constantly at our prime and things like that. So I think why I have never had big injuries, I know people have big injuries and they do all the same things and they do everything possible to prevent them, but I do think a massive reason why, touch wood, I've not, is because of just the prehab and how much work you do around the actual training in the sport.
Yeah, and there's many things, even people that maybe think that they're doing everything they should be doing. If you lose an hour of sleep that you should be getting every night, or if you cheat on a meal every day that you shouldn't be cheating on, all those small things do add up, right?
Yeah.
So that's awesome. And so when you were leading up to, again, this, the phase of your life, teenage years, where you're deciding what to study, where to go to school, did you think about America?
It is quite common, actually. There's quite a few girls who do go to the States, because the field hockey setup over there is phenomenal, like, and it's quite attractive for players here. Like, it is what it's lived up to be. And you see girls go and they look like they have an absolutely amazing time, and you do always sit there and be like, oh, what if I did that? But for me, it goes back to me wanting to study dentistry. I can go straight to study dentistry from school here, because I know in the States you have to do your undergrad and then you go to dental school after. And not that that was like never going to do that, but I just knew I had everything I sort of needed here, which is why I quickly closed that door. But there was a few, you know, recruitment processes like through social media and stuff that would reach out to a few, like me and my friends. We did get a few messages, and you know, I did chat to a few people at the time just to see what was on offer, but
Yeah.
it was never really something I looked into that deeply. But it isn't uncommon at all for Northern
And
Irish girls to go.
but since then you've been to America a few times for the national team.
So I actually never had been to America until 2 weeks ago. So that was my first.
So was it the first time?
Yeah. So
Wow.
went to Philadelphia with the indoor team. So I actually haven't talked at all about the indoor. So
Yeah. So what is the indoor? Yeah.
So wait, I'll talk about it now, sure, and then we can get onto the trip. So in Ireland, the outdoor field hockey is like the main sort of set of hockey, and the indoors only they only started the national team again in 2019. So it is very new again, back on the sort of the market of hockey within Ireland. But within those 4 years, they've been promoted twice in every the consecutive European Championships. So now we're into the top league in the European Championship. So going back to last year when I was in the under-21 national outdoor team, and when you get too old for that, it's when you pass out of that age group, you're into the senior team, which is a massive jump. And there's so many girls within that system. And, you know, it is about working up through the experience and, you know, when being ready for when your opportunity might come for the national team.
Yeah.
And I knew this year was the Olympic year. So, you know, it was a very closed group, and those girls have been working so hard for so many years to get to that point. So just being realistic, I didn't think there would be any opportunities for me in the outdoor system for the next year. And I sort of was like, oh, I don't want to do nothing. You know, I've had Ireland has been my, you know, Ireland hockey and training has consumed my summers for the last 5-6 years since I started playing for Ireland. So I was a bit like, who knows what the next year will bring me. And we played a bit of indoor hockey with Queens, and that was my first insight to it. Was Simon would be quite big into the indoor, but he loves the game. It's a completely different like type of hockey, different stick, different shoes, different ball, everything.
And is Simon the coach at
sorry,
Queen's?
Simon Bell. He's our Queen's University head coach.
Okay, so the sport, so the indoor sport is a different ball,
different ball,
different stick as well.
Different stick, different court. So it's like an indoor court. So it's the sort of same, different types of surfaces. So they could be tile surface, like a rubber type of surface, but it's like a 20 meter. I actually don't know the diameters, but it's a small court, maybe similar to like a netball, basketball size court.
Yeah.
And it's quite big. It's very big in European countries, and I know it's big in America and like Austria and all these different European countries. Like it's very, very big, and it's increasing in Ireland. So it's fast. Like go back to about October time of last year, and the Ireland head coach was in touch with Simon because there's been a few of our other girls who had played for the national team before, and he was interested to see if he had any other girls. And Simon just sort of said, look, you've got experience in the outdoor, you've not much in the indoor, but there is transferable skills there. It's still, you know, hockey at the end of the day. Go and see what you can learn, go give it a go. And I was fortunate, went down, did a few trials, and about 3 weeks later I was on a plane to South Africa to get my first national cap. So that was all a bit of a whirlwind of a couple of weeks, about last October, November time. Went in completely open-minded, didn't know what to expect, new coaches, new girls, but just absolutely loved it. And I was told going into it by Simon that my sort of style of play with hockey suited the indoor side. I had played it a few times with Queens, but it is more like a winter sport. So normally what you do is you stop the outdoor hockey season around November time, and then you play indoor for a couple of months, and that happens all over Europe. And I wish it happened in Ireland. I wish it was a bigger thing. Hopefully it will become a thing because so many matches get cancelled because of the weather around that time. So that is what they normally do, is stop play indoor. And a lot of outdoor players come and play the indoor season, and it's so much faster, more goals, you know, smaller people on the court. There's only 6 aside rather than 11 aside for the outdoor. It's a smaller time, it's only 40 minutes for a match, and there's so many differences, but it's just so fun, and like it's a bit of a thrill, but it's so difficult. So it's like your fitness needs to be so high, your skill, like one mistake and the other team can score one person out of position. So it interested me I wanted to push myself a bit. I was like, I'm going in completely open-minded, and I went to South Africa to play in the Cozy Cup, it was called, against Namibia and South Africa. And they are both top 10 ranked teams in the world for indoor, and we were 23rd, I think. Then I think we've gone up a few places since, but so we were going in completely the underdogs. And the first match we were 5-0 down, I think, by half time, and we brought the game back to lose 5-4. But there was about, I don't actually know, maybe 3,000 people watching the match, and I don't think I've ever watched. I've never ever had maybe more than 100 people watching a match before. So we were walked out. It was my debut, pretty much with girls coaches I've never really met before. I met a couple of weeks before. Everybody was so lovely, bearing in mind, and went on to a different court, different game, and I was just like, this is just a whirlwind. I remember walking out being like, this is just crazy, but taking the whole atmosphere in. And I actually scored on my debut, which was just absolutely incredible. It was just, it's definitely one of the highlights I've ever had of my hockey career.
Are you generally a goal scorer? Do you play a goal scoring
I'm a striker,
position?
yeah, I'm a forward. So so I would try my best. But yeah, that would be one of my roles. I score the goals. But so yeah, it was an amazing week, and all the South African girls and Namibian girls were just incredible to watch. They were amazing, and we learned so much off them, and we've developed every single game as a team. So that was in preparation. So that tournament at Christmas time was in preparation for the tournament in February, which was the European Championships Division 2A, which is we hosted it in Galway down in Ireland, which was amazing because it increased the awareness of indoor hockey in Ireland, especially in Galway, which isn't as busy of a part of Ireland that would be like maybe Dublin or up north in Belfast, things like that. So it was great for Galway to host the tournament. And we had like Slovakia, Sweden, Croatia, Portugal, Sweden, and us, I think. Sorry if any of those are wrong, but I think it was those teams we played against, and we won the tournament. So it was an amazing achievement, a home crowd. It was just incredible. So it was my first European Championships with Ireland, and we got the gold medal on home turf, and it was just incredible. And there was so many different kids out watching, and had to give autographs and things like that, and photos with all the kids, and it was just incredible experience for them.
So more than 100 people.
Yeah, there wasn't as many as South Africa, but there was a lot more people than I was used to. So yeah, within the space of 5 months, I'd experienced like international level on a completely different aspect of hockey I never thought I would ever do.
Amazing.
And it's not.
Will you, realistically speaking, then fight for your spot next Olympics in the next 4-year cycle?
So that is the ultimate goal, yeah. So the girls sadly didn't qualify for the Olympics this year. So the outdoor national team didn't qualify, and so they did miss out on this cycle, but there'll be so much drive for the next one, absolutely. But there isn't indoor hockey in the Olympics, unfortunately, but there's, Europeans and World Cups. There's still all these massive big tournaments. So my aim at the minute going forward is, I've had an incredible year with the indoor team, and now that I had a position in that team, obviously going forward, it's going to be more and more competitive every year, because there's going to be so much more interest for indoor, and there's so many transferable skills. Like, I already have improved so much as an outdoor player, which is obviously still my main focus because I've played outdoor for so many years, and my main aim is to get on the outdoor national team and get my first cap for the outdoor team. So ultimately that is the end goal, but I will still be going into this new season hoping to get a spot on the indoor and get all more matches under my belt with that. But normally the season is about November to February time, but then about March or April time, we had the opportunity then to have an off-season trip to Philadelphia to play the US national women's indoor team, who are, I think, 6th in the world. So they're amazing. They came 4th, I think, in the previous World Cup, and they won the Pan Am Games against Argentina just past there. And we were just like, what an opportunity for us, a lower ranked team, to go and play, because you want to play better teams. You don't want to play teams that you're going to beat 10-0. Obviously it was nice in the Europeans to win 6-7-0 against our home crowd, but ultimately you want to playing better teams. And so very quickly we got that organised, and we booked our flights to Philadelphia, and we only went for 3 nights. So it was very quick
Wow, it was
turnaround,
quick.
very, very
So
quick. And
what was your impression? What was your impression?
oh, it was great. I had a
Yeah.
blast. It was just so intense. So we trained we arrived Thursday night, trained Friday morning, played 5 matches between Friday night and Sunday afternoon, flew home Sunday night. It was a whirlwind of a weekend, but it was such a great experience to play the women in America. Like they're very young. The youngest girl I think was 15, and the old I think was early 20s. So they were very young, very talented girls. And it was so great to be able to play them at such a high level. And the facilities, we were in Pottstown, I think it was called, in Philadelphia, in a hockey club called WC Eagles, which is a massive hockey club over there. So the facilities we were at were just amazing. They had about 3 indoor courts in the one venue, and so many outdoor fields, like outdoor pitches on the outside. It was just great. And they had a massive big container of like hockey shop. It was just hockey heaven really for hockey lovers. It was great. But on the side of the hockey, it was of the matches, sorry, it was so tough. Like the girls were amazing, but we improved every single game, which was the aim of it. The scorelines were never really going to be mattered to us, how they were going to turn out. It was just about developing as a team, and we brought a few new players who never played on the national team before for experience, and the likes of me, who is my first year, was getting just the experience of playing international indoor level hockey. So we improved. We lost the first game. I think it was like 9-3. So it's like they are big scoring matches in indoor, but it's exciting like that. You want goals, and then by the game 5 we reduced that scoreline down. I think it was a 3-2 loss, so it got a lot tighter, and we improved each game, which was the ultimate aim. And it was great to have a tournament sort of on the off season, so we're not having as big of a break going into the new season. So yeah, I had a great first experience in America, and I'm actually going back then next week to Connecticut for my second time in America within a month ever. So it's just the way it works.
Also for indoor?
No, so this is for a holiday. So I'm going with my family. I have family in Connecticut.
Holidays.
So this has been planned all year. So, and it was unfortunately I couldn't have stayed out there and traveled America for a couple of weeks, so I had to come back and finish my university. But yes, it's been a bit of a whirlwind couple of weeks, but yeah, it was a
fantastic. Yeah, and Mike McGurn, we'll circle back to Mike again. He went to school in a university in Philadelphia, Temple University.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
cross country athlete, if I'm not mistaken, right? What's the I have to ask, what is there? Is there like a fitness test that you do every year in the beginning of the season at Queens?
Yeah, so it's last.
It's always that. So it's the worst part of being an athlete.
Yeah,
right?
it is, but it has to be done, and it's good to do, because the training you do is actually working in a way. So within our scholarship last year, we had fitness tests where you would do an aerobic test, a strength test, a jump test, things like that, with Mike, with all the different sports. So it was good obviously to do it with other athletes. Like there was rowers, gymnastics, loads of different sports, but obviously there was no comparisons, because everybody needs different you need to be strong in one area, and like we need to be aerobically fit and things like that. So there was fitness testing and screening with Mike, and he did it in 3 times a year, so you could see your improvements. But that was unique just to scholarship. Whereas on my hockey team, we do fitness testing at the start of the season. We get given a running program over the summer, which it's advised to do, and it's obvious if you don't do it. Basically, when you come back in pre-season, I've already started working closely with my scholarship mentors and coaches for next season, because I don't really want to have, I've had a couple of weeks or months off there, because our hockey season for Queens finished in February. It was end of February, start of March, which is very, very early. Normally it's end of March, April. So I already feel like I've had a couple of months off, and of course you need the downtime to come in September time, like raring to go. But I'm already wanting to get back into some training, so I've got some things in place already. But we would do an aerobic 1 kilometer fitness test, and there's at the start of maybe every other pre-season session with just our hockey team, and our coach has targets that he wants everybody to be within a certain time, and it's not really about meeting that time the very first time you do it. It's on the week 1 of pre-season. It's about meeting it by the last week of pre-season, so you're ready to start the season in a really fit state. But with us going off the back of last season winning the league, we're obviously going into this season wanting to retain the title, so it's going to be even a bigger emphasis on, if you're not fit come that first game of the first of the season, it could be detrimental to us getting the title. You know, we want to go on right in from the start, wanting to, you know, start from the start, because that is what the disadvantage that Queens do have is normally we have players leave, players come in because we're students, people graduate, new players come in from school, but
yeah, and you compete against clubs that are not necessarily universities.
Exactly. So it's always a bit of a grey area the first couple of matches that we get used to each other, and sometimes in the past that has caused maybe 1 point within the league title, and you always think, what if? So I would say this season, and so it is very important. Also, when's this going to go out, actually, the podcast? Because I can't say this now, because basically I've been appointed captain for next year, but it's not like released. It's not out in the like, it's not been announced to the girls yet.
When is the message going to go out?
Probably like at the start of the season, like August time. Will this go out before?
All right, maybe if it does, we'll remove this part.
Okay,
But
it's
maybe
probably not a big deal, but it's more.
So congratulations.
Anyway, so
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
That's a good one. It's a big responsibility.
Yeah. So
do you did you have a good captains in the past that you kind of learned from a lot and were good mentors to you?
Definitely. So I've had previously 2 captains at Queen's in my last couple of years, and everybody looked up to them. Sorry, and it's big shoes to fill, and you know, going forward, it's just something that I want to just do everything possible to bring the team forward and everything like that. So obviously I want to be my own person and, you know, create my own sort of morale within the team, but I've seen how important the captaincy role is in the past, that, you know, want to go from the very start, and it's going to be big shoes to fill, but yeah, I've worked closely with those girls in the past, and it's sad to see them go, but it's just the way it goes with Queens.
No, they're not hopefully not dying, right? They're developing in their lives into new things and better things, maybe. So, you know, on that note, you know, and being a captain next season, I've read a number at least of autobiographies from, you know, former athletes from all different sports, not hockey. I don't think, not hockey, but all different sports. And you know, a common theme that I've really understood from captains who really cared about, you know, being captains and leading people and working with people. It's like looking back at even the successful ones that have won many, you know, many medals, many trophies. It's like when looking back on their careers, like their mind goes first to the people they've influenced and were able to lift and help and push and develop before they even think about the medals and the titles and the goals. So it's you know, some would argue just as valuable, you know, influencing people and not just, you know, focusing on yourself and scoring. Obviously you have to do both, otherwise you wouldn't be in the position of being nominated to captain even, right? So that's a big one. So I want to wish you good luck, because it is a responsibility, and just having a couple, you know, people look up to you is a responsibility, because people will be watching you and your actions will determine some of their actions too. So, you know, so on that and having that responsibility, you know, you hear a lot nowadays, you know, athletes opening up about mental health and a struggle, and because of, you know, the nature of the sport, it's unforgiving, you know, because, you know, with or without people caring for mental health, and, you know, it's you need to perform. That's the ultimate line, right? You need to perform, and you need to score goals if that's your job. You need to defend if that's your job, and you need to do well. Otherwise, whether or not you're mentally there, like, the coach will have to put you aside, which is a big, you know, anxiety driving responsibility. So what do you say to yourself? What are some methods, you know, you administer to yourself to stay calm and collected, to be able to show up every day and do your best?
Yeah. Well, we always sort of have a saying. Well, I've always, like with other people in the past, is you work hard for the person beside you on the pitch rather than yourself. That if you don't want to let them down, and I feel like that's what sort of internally drives me, is that I'm going to go on here and I'm going to make a difference so that it can help somebody else make a difference, etc. And it goes on. So I feel like that's what I love about working as a team, is because everybody has the same ultimate goal if they want to win. And as much as I get nervous for a lot of things, as everybody do. It's good to get nervous, and means that you care. But I sort of think that I know going into each game that I have put the training in, and I've fueled properly that morning, I've slept well the night before, and in a way that my performance should take care of itself. So that definitely helps in that way. That that's how I sort of try to deal with my or cope with my nerves.
So it's like if you leading up to the training, leading up to the game, if you are not doing the things you're supposed to do, you will feel a certain level of anxiety or shaky confidence in yourself, which doesn't allow you to stay calm and collected. So you're saying you tick your boxes, and you have to tick.
Yeah. Or if it's like a big, we had every year you have big games. Obviously, it could be title deciding games, finals of cups and things, and it's natural to be the week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks leading up to it. It's all you can think about. But I always just think of those same things, that if I do everything possible to prepare, and the team is in the same good mindset, and that ultimately it is just another game. It doesn't matter that it's a cup final, that you don't have to do anything different. Like, you've got to the final, you've got to the title deciding game because of all the games you've played in the past that you've won. But I always think, how good would it feel if we won this game, and how bad would it feel if we lost? And I know that's thinking in the future, but that also is sort of like helps me calm my nerves. And I was like, we haven't lost yet, like we haven't won yet, so try to think about. It's hard to describe actually, but I sort of just think, don't go in thinking, oh, like, what if we lose? But no, we haven't lost yet. You have everything. They're also thinking the same. You start a game on 0-0, things like that. So, it is hard, and sometimes you start the game and you have an absolute mare of the first 10 minutes, and you're like, how am I going to get through this game? But it's
so what do you say to yourself in those moments?
I sort of the thing that I sort of decide within myself if I'm going to have a good game or not is if I get on the ball as soon as possible. So as soon as that whistle goes, I'm like, give me the ball and let me do something that I can do well, and then that calms me completely. It's if 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes go past, and then I get the ball and I make a mistake, then it's like, oh no, like this isn't going to go well. And that would have been my mindset, like along for a lot of the first couple of years of my hockey career. And of course it still partly is, like I'm not in a good mindset that day, and I'm not having a good game. But that's what's so good about hockey. It's that you might think everybody's going to be thinking about that massive mistake I did at the start of the game, but if you think about how much, it's the same in, like for soccer and things like that, nobody remembers that one mistake you made in the 17th minute. You might remember it, the coach might if you were about to score, but you have an opportunity to go and do something good straight away. So just go and do it. Don't dwell on that one mistake. So obviously it's very much easier said than done, and you kick yourself if you've got an open goal and you miss it type thing. But that's what I just love about hockey, is that just go back and get the ball and do something again. Just don't. And that's one thing I would say my assistant coach, so Simon Bell's our head coach, and our assistant coach is Drew Campbell, and they work so well together. And Simon, I think, has coached the Queen's hockey team for 22 seasons, and like he's one of the most decorated coaches in Ulster hockey, and we're so lucky to have him. And he just loves working with students because he loves seeing their progression throughout the years, and he gets new students in all the time. But one of the things that two things actually what our assistant coach says, and this is what I think assistant coaches are so important for, because obviously the head coach is so into like the training and the statistics and the tactics and everything, but the assistant coach is there to really just take it back and look at all the things that the head coach maybe like might not prioritize on, and our assistant coach
or even notice sometimes.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And our two things our assistant coach always says is, as soon as you're in that circle, take a breath. You have time to take a breath. Don't take a shot holding your breath. Don't take a shot when you don't need to. Things like that. And what was the other one? I've just gone out of my head. Don't ever repeat a mistake. That was the other one. So it's completely in your control, and obviously mistakes can be repeated. But if you make a mistake, it's fine. Just don't repeat it. So that's two things that he always drills into us.
and it's you say it's easier said than done, but what's important is probably even like I like a message that I like repeating is that you, speaking to any athlete, is not special from the sense of anyone that makes a mistake, has those negative thoughts creep up in their
Yeah.
in their brain, like, crap, like what's gonna.
Mhm.
But you just have to get over it and fight
Mhm.
it, because the clock's ticking and the
Yeah.
game's going and everyone's running around, and someone will take a shot. So get on the ball,
Yeah.
figuratively and
Yeah.
literally, right?
Yeah.
Which is important. My last question to you here is one that we actually might challenge you here, but one that we throw at every guest that we have on the podcast.
Mhm.
Is what is something that you've acknowledged that you've changed your mind on, looking back, maybe you thought of something in a specific way and that you fundamentally changed your mind on.
In what aspect? Like in hockey?
It could be in anything,
I've changed my
in
mind.
anything in your life. And I'll give you one from me, an example.
Okay.
When it comes to female sports,
Mhm.
where I grew up is the where I grew up, the boys played football, soccer, or
Mhm.
basketball, period. um, the girls didn't play any sports.
Mhm.
And then I suddenly showed up in America, and I went to university in America where
Mhm.
there's like 32 different sports. And I suddenly see these female athletes playing field hockey, playing volleyball, playing soccer, swimming, and I see them in the gym, and I see like holy wow, like
Mhm.
high level athletes everywhere I look, which
Mhm.
just opened my eyes to female sports and female professionalism, and really
Mhm.
the world of sports, which I've become a fan of and an
Mhm.
advocate for, just by being exposed to it. Before then I wasn't, not because I had anything against, just because it wasn't
Yeah.
something I was not normal and I wasn't exposed to. So I'm just wondering, from your perspective, if there's something that you've changed your mind on. And I know you're young, so you might face these epiphanies
Yeah.
throughout your journey and throughout your life.
That is a tricky question. Um,
It
Changed my mind on. I would say there's been times maybe when I didn't think I could go to university as well as, play hockey, and maybe people in the past would say, "Oh, how do you do both?" And like, "Can you do both? Or why would you do both? You can't be a professional athlete as well as be a dentist." But I've sort of wanted to change their mind rather than my mind. That I'm like, "No, I can," and I've seen people do it before, and that's why I want to do it. But
That's a good
um,
one. Are you and is your goal to be a professional
yeah.
athlete and be a practicing dentist?
Definitely, yeah, and the other reason why I think it was maybe driven within myself, within my family, is that career is one of the most important things in your life. Of course, that your sport can take you amazing places and great memories, but at the end of the day, you do need to have a good career in your life, and I believed in that too, and that's why I did want to go to university and become a dentist. But unfortunately, within hockey, you can't rely on solely the income of being a professional hockey player to live. It's getting better every year, and there is a paid contract, but it's nothing like other sports. So that's why I'm always like, when I'm young, get my degree, and no one can take that degree away. If I need to take a career break and go play for my country while I'm still in my prime, but I always have that then to fall back on. And if you look within the national team within Ireland, there's every sort of degree you can think of. Like there's teachers, doctors, dentists, lawyers, everything. And so everybody has that mindset that
So those and those are your models that it's
yeah,
doable.
yeah, it's definitely doable. And it's then the whole side of having a family then has to fit in there somewhere as well. So I'm sort of like, that was my sort of mindset. I was like, do everything while I can now, and then I'll get the degree, can't be taken away from me, and see where that goes, really.
Phenomenal. Jenna, I thank you so much for your time. It was, a pleasure getting to know you over this last year and a half or so. I'm glad that we both know Mike. And yeah, I wish you a great summer. Congratulations on again being named captain. We won't release this without your permission before the message is out. And yeah, wish you luck next season. Wish you luck on future call-ups to the national team. Hopefully we can do this again and get an update from you where you stand. Hopefully you can. We'll see you in the Olympics in 2028.
28, yeah.
Which would be amazing. Which would be amazing. Will you have to take some days off from your dentistry patients
I would.
to go to the Olympics?
Yeah.
So fantastic. So thank you, and enjoy your trip to Connecticut.
Yes, I will. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great year.
My pleasure.
Yeah, meeting and
pleasure.
working. No, yeah, been great.
That's awesome. Thank you very much, Jenna.
Thank you.